So hey everybody, this is my 1,300 subscriber Q&A. You guys threw an enormous number of questions. I thought about actually doing this one live, but you guys threw so many questions my way. I had to do it pre-recorded, so it'll be a little bit more fun. You'll be able to see all the questions down below in the description. With that, people are asking me, when did I start talking about movies on the internet? Questions about how do I rate movies? All sorts of questions about movies in particular. Masters of Movie Trivia. Look down in the description down below. I tried to organize them a little bit so you can follow it. So you can skip to some of your favorite questions. I'll put time codes down below as well, and wherever there it is next to me, behind me, of the different sections so you kind of track along. If you don't care about my personal life, skip ahead to the section you're interested in. And if you ask a question, I tried to leave a comment on your comment telling you the time code. With all that said, let's go ahead and dive into it. Oh, final thing. If you're noticing my camera might look different today, I am trying a new camera. I picked up a Logitech webcam to try to do something a little bit different so I can fiddle with the settings a little bit better than I can with the webcam I've been using off my MacBook Pro for the last 5 or 6 months or so. With all that said, let's go just dive right into your questions. So, starting with the category of personal channel questions, Nothing But Films, which is dishonest. His channel actually does talk about TV from time to time. Ask this: do you think you'll ever do another video like the one you did for Indiana Jones 4? So what he's talking about, last fall, I did a video. I'll try and link to it above, put a card up there. It's the coolest video I've done. The most kind of time researching and writing a video that I've done as well. Essentially what I did was I did a review analysis of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull with the idea of how to analyze it, what's broken about this, and how you could fix it, how you could take some of what's here and make an actually really good movie out of it. And I put a ton of time into it, actually wrote it out and analyzed it on a deeper level than any other video I've done on my channel. So it's the coolest video I've done. But I did it when my channel was like 6 weeks old, and so nobody watched it. It has kind of trickled up a few views since then, but I haven't done any since then because it wasn't all that successful, so I kind of put the brakes on because of the amount of time it took to write it and edit and all that fun stuff. With all that said, yes, I would love to do more of them, especially now that my channel's larger, and something like that could actually get a following and get a little momentum because my channel's big enough people would see it early on. It shows up in the recommended on the sidebar and stuff like that, and it can actually rank pretty high on Google, or not Google, well, Google and YouTube. So yes, I plan to do more. So if you guys, this is a question you guys that are watching, if I were to do a video analyzing a movie that's generally not very good, analyze and talk about how it could potentially have worked if they'd made some changes to it, how to fix the movie, what are some of those movies? So the obvious ones for me would be the Star Wars prequels. That's the immediate place I go to of like, what I would do next. And so I'll probably do something like that in December for The Phantom Menace. But to tell me your thoughts down below if there's one that you would like me to do. Next question, also from Nothing But Films, asks, how do you view a movie's quality? So I take the questions, how do I review movies? How do I judge them? What are the qualities that go into me coming up with my ratings, my reviews? Excuse me, that was a bit rude to do on film. But like, what are the elements that kind of go into how I rate and review a movie? So I wrote 5 things down. 1, the overall creative quality, just the idea of the writing. How good is the writing? And intelligent, clever writing and what they're doing. How realistic is the dialogue while being witty at the same time? Same with the direction. How good is the direction and bringing something special to it and not just kind of paint by the numbers, read it out of a textbook direct. How special is it? Likewise, the production design. How does it create a world that you want to be in? So overall, just the creative quality, that creative side of all of that. Something special was brought to it that really amplifies the material. Second one would be the technical quality of it. The actual skill set of being a professional that hits record on a camera, records it with a microphone, color corrects it, all the things that go into it that make sure that it technically, on a technical level, flows together in a way that makes sense. You can follow what's happening, that there aren't errors made. There's things like cinematography, having beautiful shots and things like that, and having an excellence to how you actually construct it. You got the creative side, you have the technical side, bring those two things together, and you get a great, just well-made movie. But lots of movies are well-made that I don't necessarily like, or many other things. So 3, the ambition of the film. So some movies can be the best possible version of that movie you can make, and I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10. Like, I don't think no matter how good John Wick could be, I don't think I would ever give it a 10 out of 10 if it's absolutely perfect. And it's pretty close to being a perfect version of the movie it's trying to be. It's a very good version of that type of movie, but the ambition of it is very small. It's kind of this simplistic plot of a guy that had very little that was rebuilding, loses what he had, and he goes out for revenge. That's a simple story. So the ambition of it is very small, but a great fun movie. So I'd give it like, a 9.5 maybe. But to get to a 10, you have to have something that just has an ambition to it that's larger scale, a level of difficulty that's more ambition. So somewhat the ambition, and there's movies that all kind of grade on a scale because of the ambition. So I'll be a little bit more forgiving to Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice because there's an ambition to what they were trying to do. If you didn't like it, if you don't think they executed, if you think the characterizations are off, I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you, but there was an ambition to what they were trying to do. They weren't just playing it safe, following a template movie. They had a lot of things they were trying to do. They did it not so great, but there was an ambition to it. Number three. So number one, overall creative quality. Number two, technical quality. Number three is the ambition, the scope, the scale of it. Number four is just kind of the generic enjoyment I get out of it. So some movies you just watch them and you go, that's just my thing. Action movies are just kind of my thing. And so I enjoy most of it. You make an action movie I don't like, that means you did something stupid in the technical quality. So the Resident Evil, the last Resident Evil movie is incredibly dark and it's just choppy, cut through stuff. But on a technical level, I just couldn't see what was happening, so I didn't get much enjoyment out of it. But just that pure enjoyment that you get out of the movie. And then number five is the rewatchability. Some movies, you just can rewatch a lot. And that's where I struggle with rating movies because that's something I really value in what I rate a movie. Commando, I can watch Commando any day of the week. Now, you can debate the overall creative quality of that movie, but at a level of just enjoyment and rewatchability, it's incredibly high for me. And so you factor through all these, and it's tricky because not all movies are the same. Like Schindler's List, rewatchability, very low. I don't need to rewatch that ever again. Maybe I'll rewatch it again when my kids are older and it's like, kids, you need to watch this serious movie. But it's not a movie that I actually, enjoy watching. But it's an incredibly well-made movie. So that makes a lot of this very difficult. So those are the ones. So the overall creative quality, technical quality, the ambition of the movie, the overall enjoyment that I get out of it, and then the rewatchability. Those last two are kind of intertwined, but not really. Some movies, you think about like an M. Night type movie, or even especially like Split, like with a twist ending, there's a certain level of joy that comes out of that immediate reveal, which is why I hate spoilers, why I like to go in fresh, and I don't understand people who don't get spoilers. So this is a unique experience that first time you see a story that it unfolds and there's an emotion that it elicits out of you one time, or if you got a bad memory, maybe a couple times. But I got a pretty good memory, so I only get it one time, and maybe that is lost after the first viewing, and that's fine. That can be an amazing first time experience. So anyway, I'm talking too long on this question. I'm not going to go this long on all of them, but talking about how I review movies and it's probably pretty important for my channel. Let me see the next one up here. Elias Prime says, are you thinking about being a film critic? I am a film critic. I'm a YouTube critic, right up there with Jeremy Johns and Chris. I mean, I would love to if there's money. There's just not a lot of money to be made in this, especially with kind of the direction YouTube's kind of going with things. When I first started, I'd heard that you should expect to make about $3 for every 1,000 views. I've almost never made $3 for 1,000 views. It's normally been like $1.50 for views, and then in April it was like 50 cents. And so you start doing the math on it, and you have to get millions and millions of views every month to make a living doing it. So beyond being a hobby critic that just enjoys doing this, because I like to talk about movies, and even on the level that I do things, I view my channel not so much as making a recommendation for whether you should go see the movie, because a lot of the people are here, people that have seen the movie and they want to talk about the movie. I view it much more as a place to start a discussion. That's kind of my take on what I'm doing. But I'm looking to actually contact some websites, local newspapers, and get into writing and some other things to expand it, because it's something I enjoy doing. I've had obviously great success for it, so I'm very interested in exploring it. If tomorrow I found out I could make a living doing this, I would be cranking. I'd probably have 2 different channels going. I'd be cranking out all sorts of content. I'd be reviewing a show every night of the weeknight. I'd have a movie. I mean, I'd have all sorts of stuff going on if I was doing this full time, and I would take it very seriously. And I enjoy talking about stuff. And so, to your answer, yeah, it's living in Texas, you have to find like a local paper to connect with, or you have to be enormously successful on YouTube, which my current rate, that will take me about 5 years before I can be a professional at this. Next question on here, we got Tom Chandler asks, when is the next big trivia? So the question is, when is the next episode of Masters of Movie Trivia, the YouTube movie trivia show that I started with me and other YouTubers competing? I'm kind of taking a little bit of a break. I mean, I guess I intentionally used the language of season 1 as the episodes we've done thus far. So season 1 has come to a close, so that there's a break. So you shouldn't be expecting another episode anytime soon, because I took so much time to edit those, and it's kind of like 3-4 months straight where I always had a big video project, because I had some work outside of this on video stuff, and then I was working on those episodes, and each one of them takes a long time to edit. And just to organize it, get everybody together, then everyone has to send me their files, and I have to download them. And so, I mean, I just leave like 3 days straight overnight downloading gigs and gigs and gigs of people's footage and stuff. So it just takes a long time. So I'm intentionally taking a pause. With all that said, I'm guessing I'll kick back up in 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm going to start up working on trying to do about one episode per month. There'll be a theme episode, and if it works, I'm going to experiment with doing a live show. So if the live show works, I will probably do one edited video that's theme-based, and then one live episode per month. All this is a kind of big question mark. The views on the second episode got pretty good. We're a big jump over the first episode. And then the third and fourth episodes had a huge drop. Even though people were sharing, a bunch of you guys were real great about sharing those videos. They just don't get the number of views. The people that do watch them love them. It gets kind of bigger, more loyal fans. It gets better viewers, but it doesn't get big numbers of viewers. And so I'm trying to figure out if there's a way, so if that's simply because if I do theme episodes and I kind of go to people in this horror community and I get them, does that kind of get better views for each? And that's the sort of stuff that I'm factoring into it. But like, my Patreon supporters that have supported me on Patreon, they've done it related to Masters of Movie Trivia. And so because of that, that's why I'm going to keep doing it, is because of the handful of people that are supporting on Patreon. And, if enough people were like supporting me on Patreon, I do more. I do it at a faster rate and I get to it a little bit quicker. It just takes so much time. It kind of sucks up all of my energy for doing this channel into doing those specific episodes and some of the most tedious editing. And then when you look at it and you go, one of those gets 200 views, whereas a ranking video that I do weekly gets 1,000 views. And you just look at the two numbers on those things that both of them get really good watch time. Both of them get tons of interaction. Both of them seem to be really liked by the viewers. One of them takes me 3 weeks to make, and one of them takes me 3 hours to make. So that's kind of the take on it. But like I said, if you guys want to support me, the best way to do is support me on Patreon. Tell me you want me to do more of them, and I'll work on it. I think 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to start working on a horror-themed episode. We have some people in mind. Cody and I have been talking about some people in mind to actually be the people on it. To hopefully make that one huge. So that's the quick version on that. Tom Chandler also asked, how did you come up with such a great idea? Let's talk about, once again, a great idea for Master Movie Trivia. There's no rocket science to it. It's just the concept of movie trivia. And if you enjoy my show, you probably watch Schmodown, you probably watch movie fights, you probably at some point in time watch something like Jeopardy or something like that. And you just like trivia. That's kind of, find it fun and amusing. And so for me, I just went, I want to do that. So the best way for me to do that is I will put in the hard work to make it happen. And also one of the things with my channel that I try to do is I try to kind of build community. I kind of have a background in doing stuff like that, building community, working with people, and using YouTube as a way to help my channel grow and build the YouTube community is be kind of a community center. So I can put a bunch of time into making some videos if it creates a better community that's more fun to have conversations in and that's kind of a cooler place to be. So that's kind of where it was coming from. If I wanted to do something that I want to create something for the YouTube community, or like the small local YouTube community that I want to participate in, so therefore I created. That's essentially where it came from. It's not, you think about it, it's just a trivia show. There's nothing clever in the actual execution of it. I had some ideas when I first pitched it to Tyler and Cody and Durbin and Jeff. The original pitch was kind of like this: you can use your phones because I can't stop you from cheating. You can look stuff up, but if you look it up, you might take too long. You might do all sorts of stuff like that. Is too complicated. So by the time we actually hit record on the first episode, we simplified it down to what you have right now. It's just a simple, straightforward show that kind of brings the whole world together. It's pretty cool. And that's kind of why I hope I can get more support and more people viewing future episodes, because, if they were big hits, and I would love to be able to, all the people that are like, I want to do it, I want to make that for you. I want to be able to do that. I want to include as many people as possible. But, for that to happen, it really does take up a ton of my time. Ryan O'Toole asks, we all know that you are the master of movie trivia, but is there a genre of film you wish you knew more about? Classics and Oscar movies, good movies. I tend to, especially more recently, with kids and adult life, all those things that go along with it, I find myself just want to be entertained by movies for the most part. As I'm not as drawn to dramatic stuff or like putting the effort into watching classics. While they're great movies, they take more of an investment because the way of filming's different. So just you enjoy them a little bit differently. And so, for me, that's kind of the my take on it is classics and Oscar movies, good movies. I wish I knew more about them. And it just, when you're deciding where I'm going to put my time into, do I want to be entertained or do I want to do homework watching a movie? I normally just want to be entertained, or I'm going to watch like a Transformers movie to be able to trash it for my channel or something like that. So that's my take on it. Rich Reviews asks, considering you're from Texas, how big is the Alamo? Not very big. It's actually really weird to go to it because you see the movies with it and it looks like it's in this big open field, and you see Santa Anna's army off over here, and then you see this farm thing with walls, and it's the Alamo, and so then in big open spaces like you imagine Texas, and there's plenty of big open spaces like that in Texas, not quite as dirt based as most of the stuff that you see in the movies, but that's not what the Alamo looks like anymore. It's like in the middle of San Antonio. And so it's like you're driving through San Antonio, the middle of this big, gigantic city, the third biggest city in Texas. And you're in the middle of kind of downtown. And then you're like, oh, there's the Alamo right there. And then as for how big it is, I mean, you can look at pictures of it. It's barely a 2-story building. So you'd think if your local, if you look at it compared to your local Walmart is a lot bigger than the Alamo. It's just kind of this thing that's kind of cool shaped, and out front they've got the line where drew a line in the sand, and are you with us or for you against us? They actually drew a line in the sand and they marked it with this gold strip on the ground and stuff. So, but yeah, it's a little bit anticlimactic if you're thinking like it's gonna be this big epic. No, it's not quite like that. And I haven't been in a while. I might not even been as an adult. I mean, I went 5 times before I hit 18, and then I've been hit 18. I was like, I never really liked that very much. That's kind of anticlimactic. So I haven't gone back, but it's never wowed me all that much. I think Tyler Tompkins is actually lived in San Antonio, I think. So he's probably been there more than I have. So ask him. And he's probably been there a lot more recently than I have. A lot more recently. Like the last time I went, he might not have been alive yet. Next question on here. Mick Rock Movie Reviews asks, what was the worst movie experience you ever had at the theater? A couple kind of come to mind. I went to go see a press screening of Jupiter Ascending, the really weird Channing Tatum dog boy one from the Wachowskis. And the whole movie is out of focus. It was in 3D and out of focus. And the movie itself is not good. And it's this weird campy throwback maybe to Flash Gordon. Like it's this weird campy thing. But it's out of focus. And the thing that's best about it is the visuals and the action. But in 3D out of focus, you just feel sick. And they were trying to focus it the whole movie. And so it's going like this the whole time, and you're just like, oh, why are you doing this to me? And so it was pretty rough to get through that one. So that's one. And then when I went to go see 10 Things I Hate About You, the sound was so bad, it kept dropping out, and there were issues. They didn't fix it. They were weird about it. And as a pretentious kid in the year 1999, I was like, I'm gonna send an email to Lucasfilm and tell them that you shouldn't get the Phantom Menace because you don't do the sound on your movie right and the colors off and you're not worthy of Star Wars. And so that's what I told him I was going to do. I never did that, which is lucky because I can't think of anything too much more pathetic than doing something like that. For 10 Things I Hate About You. Actually, I don't know what I was about to say about 10 Things I Hate About You. I love 10 Things I Hate About You. That's a great movie right there. Yeah, that's a really cool movie. Mick Rock Movie Reviews also asks, what music do you listen to? I listen to a number of different things in music. So right now I drive a paint truck for listening, for a living. I drive a paint truck for a living. And so I listen to an enormous amount of music. I actually signed up for Apple Music, so I just have all the music that I want in the universe. The main things I probably listen to are just playlists from about the year 1980 till about the year 2005 of things in the category of rock. All sorts of playlists in there. The main things, or synth-based stuff. I like a lot of synth-based stuff. Huge fan of Weezer. Used to be a huge fan of Smashing Pumpkins. A lot of pop punk. Certain strands of the emo stuff I liked. Certain strands were very weird and I was not into, but all kinds of stuff. All the things that people that are my age that were in high school in the late 90s, all the ones that Matchbox 20, Better Than Ezra. Actually, I don't like all that much Better Than Ezra. There's like 2 songs that I really like, and then I haven't listened to anything else from them. They just happen to be one that in my playlist comes up a lot. I really like Monster Magnet. There's a random one, Monster Magnet. But like, I don't listen to enough. I'm not passionate the way I used to be about music to be able to really give you like, these are my favorites. These are the best of all. I can't really do that right now with the way I listen to music. And also because I'm a church world type person, I listen to a lot of worship music. Christian music, like that's on Christian radio, is pretty awful. Just across the board, it's like this weird overproduced monster thing that you can hear it, and before they even start talking about Jesus, you're like, that's Christian radio, and I don't like it. That's for the most part, I don't like that stuff. Actual like worship artists that write music for the church itself, I like most of that stuff. And that's what Christian radio drives me nuts, is because then they take these songs that were written by people for their church and then they do this hyper produced thing, monstrosity out of it that drives me crazy. I grew up with the Newsboys and liked them back in the day, and now they do just like worship covers and they're awful. Like they're unlistenable. Like, how these guys are like 50. How are they making this garbage? So anyway, continue on. Tom Kabler asks, how old were you when you first started your video? The sentence, I don't know if he left some words out exactly what he's referring to. How old was I when I started this channel? Well, when I first put this channel up, I think I was 32, 31 maybe. Whenever I first started this channel. But I did like 2 videos, took 6 months off, did 2 videos, took 6 months off, took 2 years off. So I did under 10 videos, I think, in the first 3 years of this channel existing. And then I started last July when I was 34 years old. So if that's your question, that's the answer to that. That's not very interesting because that's to say 1 year less than I am right now. As for talking about movie stuff, hopefully I'll remember to put the card up here. I did a video just yesterday where back in the 90s, I had a number of movie review websites and like a Jackie Chan website. And so I put up a video yesterday where I looked those up and read some of my reviews from back in 1998, 1997, 1999. And they're awful. They're hilariously bad. But so I've been doing this since I was a teenager in some form or fashion. I've blogged in different ways, shapes, and forms about different sorts of things. When the blog world came out, I commented comment sections. I've been doing this stuff for a while. That's why I started doing this. I was like, I should probably... I don't mind talking on camera. I've got some zest and pop and energy to what I do. I can articulate ideas well, so I should probably do that YouTube thing. And whenever I started having the time to do it, that's when I started doing this. And here we are. That's kind of where that came from. And I didn't want to just comment on other people's stuff. I wanted to create my own stuff. So here we are. Zach Westin asks, if you were an Avenger, who would you want to be and why? Captain America, I guess, because he's like a perfect human. None of the weird stuff that comes with Hulk or not being a human that comes with Thor. Tony Stark's just a smart guy with stuff, so maybe that'd be pretty. So maybe Tony Stark, but Captain America's like you get all the best qualities of being a human. You get to be the best at being human. So that's pretty cool. And who would you be in the Justice League? Superman, for kind of the same reasons. All right, so our next category is movies and TV in 2017. These should go a good bit faster because they're pretty straightforward questions. Cody asks, what is the most anticipated film of the year besides Star Wars? War for the Planet of the Apes. This series has just kind of blown me away. I've loved what they've done. I mean, I didn't even want to go see the first one in the theater, so I didn't. And then I watched it on video, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. I went out and bought it. I was like, wife, watch this, woman. And then she loved it too. Went to go see the second one, loved it. I love what they're doing. They've really found the right way to balance spectacle with true drama. The idea that it's not just that there's bad guys that want to do evil. No, it's like actual tension where there's two or three conflicting worldviews that are driving why people are doing things. And no one's really wrong. Some people might do bad things, but there's a worldview driving that's not crazy. It's not just evil. It's I'm trying to defend my people. I have been wrong. Therefore, I have a right to do those types of things that make for true drama and conflict. So, War for the Planet of the Apes. The movie crew asks, do you think Justice League will be great or just another DCEU flop? Well, first off, I'll say this. Whenever I use the word flop as a term for box office performance, just to clarify terms so that we're very clear on when I say things, what do I mean? When I use the term flop, it's talking about a box office failure. Not just a box office disappointment, but a box office failure. And using that word, DCU has no flops. That's not the way you're using the word. I'm pretty sure you're talking about bad, poorly reviewed movies. But I did the word, so that we know what we're talking about when you use terms. Terminologically speaking, I use flop to refer to a box office failure. King Arthur had a $185 million budget, debuted at $15 million in the US. That's a flop. Terms. But do I think Justice League will be great, or do I think it will be a huge critical disappointment? I'm very optimistic for it. I think I thought Man of Steel was really good. I've never been on the Zack Snyder hate train at all. I don't think he understands these characters or the way he's wired. He's so cynical in his worldview. I don't think he's the best fit necessarily for some of these characters. But as for a director, I think he's a very good director at the right things. Batman v Superman might have had too many plots, and that's not his thing, and so it had some weaknesses. If this is a straightforward, there's an invasion, let's get the crew together to stop them movie, then I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be great. It'll be very enjoyable, especially with what they're trying to do with add humor into it. So it's like the DC version of the Avengers, which what the Justice League is. But if that's what the movie plays out to be, and then plus Joss Whedon kind of adding some of his things that he brings to the table that I think would be a huge benefit, because it really does kind of counterbalance some of Snyder's stuff. I just don't have any big fears at the moment, especially coming off Wonder Woman and understanding that whatever happened that made it so the DCEU had so many or two bad films that were very weird conceived movies in 2016. It seems like they're fixing that. They've been fixing it, and that's why we've been getting all these weird announcements and all sorts of stuff, but they're moving past it. GamerCop asks, what's your favorite movie so far in 2017 so far as we hit the halfway point of the year? As I said at the beginning of my Wonder Woman review, it's Wonder Woman. Before that, it was Logan. I kind of been pretty disappointed by movies this year. I haven't felt really wowed too much. Logan was a really cool movie. Wonder Woman was a really cool movie. But they're like 9 out of 10s for me. They're not like 9.5s, 10, 10, 10. I mean, they're like, wow, that's a really cool little movie. Not mind-blown type stuff. Even with those movies. So thus far, I haven't been too blown away by stuff. But Wonder Woman and Logan are the two on top. Almost Sideways asks, what film this year do you think has been underrated or surprising? Underrated, Patriots Day. Patriots Day, the Mark Wahlberg Patriots Day Boston Marathon bombing movie. Just no one went to go see it, and it's a really good movie. It tells a story well, and it's a little weird because the Mark Wahlberg character isn't real, and he's kind of more of a storytelling device. But other than that, it's a real good movie. And the other one, it's a real different, much more the traditional definition of underrated. It's a movie called The Space Between Us. It's a YA romance movie for kids or for teenagers, and they got like a 15% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I think that's kind of ludicrous for what the movie's trying to be. It's quite enjoyable. It's me as a grown man enjoyed it. There's some stuff that's not my thing. But it's a fun little adventure. The leads in it are charismatic and fun to watch, and Gary Oldman's in there adding some gravitas to it. And I just don't understand where the 15% is coming from. And even watching some other reviews where people, this movie sucks. And I just watched it. I was like, I mean, it's not great, but talking about underrated, if it's supposed to be here and everyone's rating it down here, it's underrated. And so that's one that comes to mind. Surprising, I guess Get Out. I mean, the trailers didn't interest me, and so it's very surprising. Power Rangers, one that on paper I was like, Power Rangers, really? Really, we're going to do that? Or Split. Obviously, it's Shyamalan. He loves surprises, so that's the most obvious one to go with right there. All right, so that's the end of this category. Next category on here is favorite movies. GamerCop asks, what are your top 10 favorite movies? I don't really do favorites like that. I don't keep a list. I don't like to pick favorites. There's some patterns. Hopefully I'll remember to put a video up here. I did a video called 15 movies that will always be with me. Kind of talking more, not necessarily, this is the best, this is my favorite, I rewatch this one the most, but kind of 15 movies that have some sort of marker in my life. And this list of 10 is kind of based off of that. A few tweaks. I think all of these are on that list. Also, some of them, I'm not going to pick a Star Wars movie, so I'll just put like Star Wars on my list. But in no particular, well, actually, these aren't in a particular order. These are in alphabetical order. They're not in preference order. I don't have that at all. But we'll go Aliens. That's the second one. Back to the Future. Die Hard. Jurassic Park. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Rocky, along with Rocky Balboa, Creed, and Rocky IV. Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Star Wars Trilogy, obviously the original. Superman 1 and 2, and Terminator 2. Those are the ones, that's where my mind drifted on it. Just kind of favorite movies, the ones that kind of get put in a lot. They have a special place in my heart that I think are really good movies. And, you know, if you're my age, my list is... It's pretty obvious. If you're into the stuff that I'm into, in which case, if you look at my list, it's pretty straightforward. It's a lot of people that my age love the movies that are on this list, and there's a reason for that. If I spend more time on it, I might have some more creative, deeper cuts that I'd put in there. But as I just don't like to pick favorites. I don't know how I can't even pick between Superman 1 and 2. So they're both on there. Both of them have things that are amazing. Star Wars Trilogy. I don't know how I pick from. I think the three of them as a thing is a great unit that goes very well together. So I don't really want to pick beyond that, but there you go. That's my list, and it's pretty safe picks. Jay Vaters asks, favorite Stanley Kubrick movie? We'll go Full Metal Jacket, and I actually really liked his movie from, I believe, 1955, The Killing. Like that one. Favorite Alfred Hitchcock movie? North by Northwest. Favorite Martin Scorsese movie? We'll go Taxi Driver. Then Rich Reviews asked, best and worst movie by Richard Linklater? No opinion. I haven't seen a number of them, and of the ones I've seen, I don't have a strong enough opinion to be able to say something that would stick. There's not like a movie that as soon as I looked at the list, I went, that's the one, like I did with the people previous mentioned. And LeonLaLad asks, favorite Tarantino movie? We'll go with Pulp Fiction. So, but I'll say this, as I have favorites on Kubrick, Hitchcock, Scorsese, and some of them, that's not like really my thing. As you can look at my list above of movies, it's action-based, adventure-type stuff, sci-fi. And so I'm picking favorites. Those are the ones that kind of naturally drifted towards, or movies that I really liked. But I don't really even have too much to say about, like, oh, I love Taxi Driver, this anti-hero exploration. Nah, that's just the one that comes to mind. Pulp Fiction, that's a movie I really do enjoy that I've watched many times. That's just such a neat movie. It's so influential on so many people for so many reasons. So there you go. Favorite movie from your childhood? I would just, same list as above. The way I'm wired, I kind of lock in on things. And so then I talk about Aliens. Look, within arm reach, I had the quadrilogy. Talked about Star Trek. Within arm reach, I have this phaser from the year 1990. I mean, you know, I'm just kind of like, oh, I've got these expensive Making of Star Wars books right here with me. I kind of lock in on things, and so that list of movies from there is mostly the movies that I still watch, but I'd add in there movies that wouldn't make my top 10 list, but like Batman 1989, maybe The Rocketeer, I don't know, some other things. Obviously I was of that age that, like, my Disney movies growing up were The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and then The Lion King, and then I got old enough that I stopped watching animated movies for about 20 years. But, like, so that's the where I grew up, and, some of those types of movies kind of defined my childhood. If you kind of look at some of the retro reviews I do on this channel, those probably reflect what I some of the stuff that I really liked growing up. I remember I have fond memories of watching Flash Gordon off TNT in the afternoon and eating weird candy that I got from the dollar store, things like that. Favorite comedy movie? I actually don't immediately have a favorite comedy. As you look at my list above, I'm not a big comedy type person. I actually asked my wife, and she goes, Twins? She has the Twins, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie with Danny DeVito, which I really like it. But I would never think that's my favorite. And I was thinking like Major League, but that's not, I wouldn't think that's my favorite. Zoolander, but I wouldn't think that's my favorite. Tropic Thunder, but I don't watch that all that often. The Hangover, like I really like that, but I just don't really pick, comedies aren't ones that I rewatch as much. So it's tough to say. Like the most of the movies that have made me laugh the most, that's just the most enjoyable, like would be like Guardians of the Galaxy. That first experience seeing that in the theater, when I think of just humor in a movie that just I loved. First experience watching The Hangover, first experience watching Guardians of the Galaxy. Those are some ones that come to mind, but it's not really a great answer to your question. I got several questions kind of related to each other. Movies, reviews, and rankings by Reese says, what's your top 5 favorite superheroes? Then Log Dump asks, what's your top 3 favorite Marvel heroes, and what are your top favorite DC heroes? So, with DC, I'll go Batman, Superman, and Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson's had several different mantles, and he's kind of, I feel he's like this guy that's very well known as the side character, but there's arcs that he becomes a man, he grows up because of Nightwing. There's stuff that hasn't been portrayed as much in mainstream media that you get, like if you do a Batman cartoon, you get a couple episodes with Nightwing, or he shows up in Justice League in an episode, he's referenced, but we haven't got it in as much of grown-up Dick Grayson, and he's a pretty cool character. But Batman and Superman they're like the archetypes of superheroes for me that are kind of establish the sorts of ideas out there, what we're looking for. A man that's at the pinnacle of being a man, and a person that has incredible abilities. They're like the archetypes of these two different things and in different ways. And with Batman, the hero born out of personal tragedy, and then Superman, the person with incredible ability shaped by great character to do great things. These sorts of ideas that you see trickled into other characters. As for Marvel, Captain America, I just like, somewhat for the same reason as Superman. People say that they're boring because they're not like broken, brooding characters with issues. That's what makes them interesting. There's something powerful about altruism in people leveraging the good that they have, the abilities they have for the benefit of others. That's a very good thing that I would think we'd want more of. So I really appreciate that. Just the concept of them are very moving and powerful to me. 2, cheating a little bit, Guardians of the Galaxy. Who would have thought 4 years ago that someone would, who are your favorite Marvel heroes? The Guardians of the Galaxy. Who would have thought that? But that's where we are. I was a lot more critical of part 2 than most people, but it didn't taint my interest in the content. I wasn't like spoiled or anything like that. It just, the plot was the issue. The actual characters, I still love them just as much, and all for them. And then I guess Iron Man. I'm not as much of a Marvel person. I think what DC does is a lot more powerful. They haven't figured out the stuff like the MCU has quite yet, but I like DC Comics or characters on a much deeper level than I like Marvel characters. And some of the, like Spider-Man, it just hasn't really interested me in the 10, 15 years or so. So anyway, Juan and Diego Gamers ask, can you rank all 4 Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies? Yeah, number 4 is number 4, number 1 is number 2, number 3 is number 3, and number 4 is number 4 as well, and 2 we don't speak of. No, I haven't seen any of it. I've seen any of them. I haven't read any of the books, so I can rank them. I can do whatever you want. I can just make a ranking up, but I haven't seen any of them. I didn't know anything about them. It didn't even really occur to me that there were 4 of them until this one came out, and then, it's the 4th one in the series. It's kind of a reboot, new characters. Alicia Silverstone's in it with Tom Everett Scott. Wow, the drummer from the Oneaters. And, so that's why it caught my attention. That's the only reason it caught my attention, is because I watched it. I was like, oh no, Alicia Silverstone is now playing the lame mom in movies. What has happened to my life? I'm old. So it's very weird to see Cher from Clueless in this. Batgirl as a mom now, and looking like she's an aged mom too. Which it's scary that we're getting so much older now. But so yeah, that was that one. I just can't do it because I haven't seen any of them. I don't know anything about them really, other than the trailers that I've seen for this latest one. I know nothing about them. I didn't know they existed. Comedy Teen asks, what is your favorite film series? Oh, some of the obvious ones. Star Wars, obviously. It's pretty easy to pick up on. The MCU is, I think, one of the coolest things that's ever happened in movie history. The way that's coming together. And I mean, I don't know what it's going to mean for movies long term, but obviously it's had a huge influence on now. And just the fact they pulled that off and that it works. And as I just said, I'm not as crazy about Marvel characters. I'm crazy about those movies. Their bad movies are still very watchable entertainment. And their great movies are really inspired great movies. So the MCU, Indiana Jones, Lethal Weapon, I guess maybe Jurassic Park. Skips part 2 and 3, but 1 and 4 have me very excited. I guess that Planet of the Apes now, once again, it's picking favorites, so it's a little bit tricky. But I'd mention the same sorts of things that I would have mentioned in other sorts of places. MrMcAzza, what is the most overrated movie? I'm not going to go with the movie. I'll go with the director. Let's just go with Ridley Scott. Other than Gladiator, this guy's overrated. He's making these Alien Covenant, Prometheus, pretentious movies. He's spoiled his career for me. Let's just call him. Now, I don't know. I don't have anything that comes to mind. It's tricky for me because of just the way I think and the way I process things. I don't like to think of myself as like, I'm the guy that has it right. I just don't think that way. I respect difference of opinions. That's why I like to talk about things. That's why I try to have discussion here. Because I'm just curious as to why people like different things. And so if you love if a whole bunch of people love something and it's highly rated and critics love it, my first thought isn't morons. Everybody loved that. They're stupid. Like I just don't think that way. Or if you don't like something I don't like, sometimes it's confusing to me when there's a big gap there. But I just don't naturally think in a way that would be like, this is the most overrated. Nothing that immediately comes to mind. Like last year, like Arrival and La La Land seemed overrated to me, very overrated, but it was because of the nature of praise people were giving it. It's not because I would be like, that was a bad movie. I give it like an 8 out of 10. I enjoyed it. I didn't really, other than saying it's maybe a bit slow, but I watched it at home, so I was kind of distracted. I got kids and stuff like that. But I mean, I thought it was a very good movie, very interesting movie, very cool sci-fi. I'm glad it exists. But for me, it wasn't like, best movie of the year. Oh my goodness, it was so powerful. It's just, the ending blew my... I just wasn't like that. I didn't respond like that. Or La La Land, I was like, well, that was very cool. That was very interesting. People were telling me, they're like, best musical in 50 years. You don't love musicals. You're still going to love this movie. I've seen it 10 times. And I watched it. I was like, okay. It's a very well-made movie with 2 charming leads and charming settings. That's cool. Seems a bit like Hollywood is full of themselves, but... all right. There you go. Nothing But Films asks, somewhat related, what's a movie that's considered a classic but you don't think it's good? I'd go with Heat. Well, actually, I jumped ahead of myself. I didn't pay attention enough to my notes. But Blade Runner, back to what I just said about Ridley Scott, I need to rewatch it. If I rewatch it, I'll probably like it. It's been a long time. I'm going to rewatch it. I might even review it this month because it's the anniversary, 35th birthday. La La Land and Arrival are 2 that come to mind. But I think they're very good movies. I'm not criticizing La La Land as bad. It's a very good movie. Arrival is a very good movie. Best of the year, best in 50 years, amazing sci-fi. I'm not quite so sure about that. Animation Trainer asks, what's your favorite song from Awesome Mix Volume 1 and 2? Great question. I love this one. So this is a question, he's referring to the soundtracks as well. Yeah, some of the soundtracks for Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, them being called Awesome Mix 1 and 2. For Awesome Mix number 1, I'm going to go with I Want You Back with the Jackson 5. Obviously, a great song. Always been a great song. Now that just the new memory associated with Baby Groot and the movie ends and then that kicks in, so good. I mean, just amazing. And even the little scene with Drax and Baby Groot, so good, so good. I'm sorry I keep rubbing my nose. My nose is just driving me nuts, incredibly itchy, which is not good when you're doing a video and you're 45 minutes into it and can't go blow your nose or take drugs to fix your nose. Number 2, Guardians of the Galaxy Awesome Mix Volume 2. I'd go Fox on the Run. The Sweet from The Sweet. I'd heard this song before, and then that trailer hit, and it just was like, wow, I love this song. So cool. How did I not appreciate this song more? Those are the songs on the soundtrack that are the coolest, is when it's like I'd forgotten that existed, and it makes you love it. Important one. My wife's pick from Awesome Mix number 2. Her favorite song of all time is Brandy, the one that Ego and Star-Lord have a conversation about. That's my wife's favorite song of all time. So that was cool. Final question section of this little video. Generic movie and TV questions as I rub my nose. Maybe one final time before we go into the final little section here. Very sorry. As you can tell, I've got a cold and allergies and all kinds of stuff. Mick Rock Movies Reviews asks, what are your feelings towards the series Gotham? I'm a few episodes behind, so I've watched almost every episode. I'll catch up in the next week or so. It's a weird movie. It's a weird concept for a series. It's weirdly executed. Weird is the word for all of it. Just intriguing enough to keep me interested to keep watching. Like, oh, is this going to get good? Oh, I'm almost kind of liking this, and I keep watching it and not really liking it. It's homework, and my wife walks in and she goes, Why are you still watching this crap? You don't like this show, but why are you still watching? And I don't have a good answer. So that's my answer. I watch it. I try to like it. I want to like it. It's just so weird. So many decisions are just so strange with where they're going with things. I think even in starting with even the arc they're doing with Bruce, it's like they made him too young. And I don't know, maybe in the next 2 seasons, as this guy's turned 17, 18 years old, and, as he seems like he's probably getting pretty tall, if he turns into a, Batman-y looking dude, maybe things will turn around and some of the vibe will feel strange, some of the vibe will change. But it's just very odd to, follow him becoming Batman as, a kid, post-traumatic stress disorder and learning to box and stuff. It's very odd. Very odd. Final little section here. Rich Reviews. We'll ask all the final questions. What animation film would you want to see a reboot to? An American Tale or The Land Before Time? An American Tale. The Land Before Time, first off, is traumatizing. I saw that one in the theaters, and yeah, it screwed up a generation of kids. That's why people my age are so cynical and jaded and angry, because of The Land Before Time and what they do in the first 10 minutes of that movie. But they did so many sequels to it that it feels like that one's played out. Whereas in American Tale, they did a couple things afterwards. But really, that's one that I think you could do a modern telling with CGI and do something cool with it. Could you ever see a James Bond movie adapted from one of the more recent novels, or is it strictly Ian Fleming getting top billing? I don't think you will, just because of the way Hollywood works, and they're going to want to go with their own stuff. But never say never. It certainly could happen. It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't think it would happen, but if I heard it was, I just wouldn't be surprised by it. But just the way they seem to do things, that they either go to Ian Fleming or they just do brand new stuff, seems to be the way they want to do things. Thus, kind of like with the Bourne stuff, where they pull titles from some of the other authors and works and stuff, but really it's original stories. They want to go in their own direction. That's what Hollywood tends to like to do. Number 3, would you rather see a follow-up film to TV show and which TV show that had an awful finale? All right, so would I rather see a follow-up TV show to one of these 3 TV shows that ended really bad? The 3 shows are Lost, House, and Dexter. I think the obvious answer, the only direction you could go, that you could do a movie that could potentially fix the mistakes and have a more satisfying conclusion, would be Dexter out of those. So Lost, the problems of Lost were very deep and fundamental into what the show was, that it was so built around creating mystery and intrigue in the first 3 seasons that when it came time to start answering questions, it was like an afterthought, and they painted themselves into corners, and they did things that they didn't have a good answer to. It was just they were so good at J.J. Abrams' mystery box and making you go, why are there polar bears there? What's the cloud? They're so good at creating this ambiance and this vibe that the answers, you don't really want the answers, but the show kind of demanded we get answers, and so and there's no way to satisfyingly end the show with where they were going with it. And so you do let's do 2 more hours of Lost, 3 more hours of Lost, and it would just be more of the same. And especially with where it ended, are you going to undo that last season and the whole idea of where they ended up? If you haven't seen where the show goes, it's major plot things and where the story goes that you can't resolve that with another story. And so much of mythology got so messy with where they went with it. House, I haven't seen the end of House. I've seen, I think, the first 6 seasons of House, and for some reason it just stopped. And it didn't just randomly stop. I had kids, and my wife, as soon as we had kids, like, I can't do this anymore. It's put too many ideas in my head about my kids getting sick and dying, so I can't watch House anymore. And we loved House for years and years and years, and then when you have kids, you're afraid of them dying all the time. So we stopped watching a show about kids dying all the time. So I don't know where it ended, but the nature of that show, just kind of inherent nature of it, it doesn't call for needing a hard end. And so that's where kind of watching it, I didn't feel like I need to finish what happened to House and what happened to him. It's a week to week, episode to procedural. That's when it was best. And so the big story arcs, I didn't think those worked as well as just a good episode of this character I love to be around, House, being a jerk with his staff. That's what I wanted. So I don't need any more. And to that point, I haven't even seen the end of it. With Dexter, you can have you could tell a story that finishes off Dexter in a way that's satisfying. I think the problem that show ran into is what needed to be the final season was season 2, not the storyline of season 2, was the storyline that would make for a great final season. Because the storyline of season 2 was the police might figure out there's a serial killer out there and there's a bunch of bodies, and so they're trying to track down Dexter. So that lends itself to a big finale where you can have satisfying conclusions and resolution and tied loose ends, and have justice and all sorts of things that go along with that. And Dexter making a choice that he wants to, he wants to free his son and all the people around him of what he's doing. So he makes a sacrifice and he gets caught in the end. There's a story you could tell that would be satisfying. Now, actually, it's a little bit tricky to do that with where the series ended, because the series ended with him. They were like, let's just kill off a character. And so he's sad, and then he gets in a boat and goes into a storm, and he goes, I have to end this. And then he's not dead or something. I mean, it is terrible. I mean, it was terrible. The last few seasons weren't very good, and then they found a way to like make the last few seasons seem good with where they ended it. I was just watching it with my jaw dropped. And then 1 week later was the series finale for Breaking Bad, which I thought was the greatest finale of a thing ever. It was probably really good finale, but it seemed amazing right after watching the Dexter finale, which was atrocious. It just shocking. You're watching it like, you just did that? What? All right, final question we got on here. This is a fun one. If you were hired by Johnny Depp to be his agent, what would you tell him? I don't think the thing is what would I tell him so much as what would I ask him. And I think the thing would be kind of a couple. Just first thing you do is ask him, are you doing this because you like doing it? Is that why you keep putting the makeup on? Is that why you keep taking these big franchises where you're a weird, wacky character that's a play off of, some character you've done before? It seems a little bit like you're phoning it in because it's all the same stuff over and over again. In particular, it's white makeup over and over again. Is that what this is? Just like you just enjoy doing it? If he says, yeah, I like weird stuff. That's why I was Edward Scissorhand almost 30 years ago. I just like weird. And I make a lot of money doing weird, so I want to keep doing weird. And then I'd go, all right, let's keep doing weird. Why don't you just do an interview and say that, though? Let's just let everybody know this is what I want to do and this is my life, and so I'm just having fun doing it. Cool, we're done. If he says no, I mean, I'm just trying to keep my career going, I would be like, buddy, you're in your 50s now. You can't keep doing this. You're like at that point to where you need to transition to aging gracefully and you're stepping away from big franchises. Pick a couple that are good, that are yours, and then start doing smaller stuff. Do indie things. You are a great actor. Everybody's known that Johnny Depp is a great actor for a very long time. And we've kind of forgotten because he's done so much of the, hey, where's the rum? He's done that for so long that we've forgotten that he's actually a great actor. And so he needs to have both of those paths going. And it just seems like he keeps doing things like, whoa, experiment with comedy, Mordecai. I mean, just goes silly immediately again with the silly mustache. So finding something just normal acting. If that's what if it's about a career and a legacy, then do that. If it's about he's having fun, or if it's something like that, that's what I would do with him. But, there's a side to it. I just want to be like, stop it. Just stop it. Don't pick any more of it. Why are you showing up in Harry Potter? Why are you now going to be in this monster universe thing? Like, why do you keep selecting big franchises, big property blockbuster movies where you put makeup on and act weird? Stop it. Be an actor. Remind us how good you are. That's my take on all of that. Thank you guys so much for watching. We are now at 57 minutes, just shy of, actually when it's edited down, it probably won't be 57 minutes. It'll be a little bit shorter than that because I had a couple coughing breaks in there. So we're probably only at about 54 minutes and 38 seconds. We'll check the time code when we're done. Anyway, if you're watching this, you probably already subscribed, so I don't need to tell you to subscribe. But I will anyway. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. If you watch this whole thing and you're not subscribed, you probably should subscribe because you probably enjoy my company quite a bit. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching, for subscribing, commenting, asking all these questions. I really do appreciate it. If you want to go the extra mile and support my channel, please consider supporting my Patreon. That's just an extra mile way you can support my channel. And you get special input. I do special reviews for my patrons each month. They let me tell me movies they want. That's the single best way you can help convince me that I need to do more seasons of Masters of Movie Trivia. If we got, if I was getting enough money every month, I would be cranking out a lot more of those. So if you want more of them, support me on Patreon. It's the best way to do it. With a nice plug there at the end. Thank you for watching.